everybody, and welcome back to Bit About Crypto. I'm David James, the Job Whisperer, and we got another episode of Bit About Crypto. And Bit About Crypto is a human interest story where we bring people on the show to actually talk about their life and how crypto found them. So the two things that everybody guessed that has in common with this show is they're human beings and somehow crypto found them. And we're going to talk about that with our special guest today. But before, I got to give props and an introduction to my co-host, Dave Hampton, the Robo-Recruiter. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you Robo-Recruiting?
Yeah. I mean, I'm Robo-BDing because you'll be doing. You're in charge of the recruiting part, right?
Yeah. Well, you're forward-facing. You're the account manager, and you're what you really do is you tell clients no, because we for the first time in our life we actually have more clients that we want to take. We're turning away business.
Yeah.
Because we only want good business. Isn't that crazy?
Good business.
Yeah. And
good business leads to growth. Yep.
And the thing about it is the population. So we're blockchain recruiters. That's who we are. We recruit in the blockchain space. And the purpose of this show is to actually reach out to anybody who actually is in the blockchain space and they want another opportunity, or if you have talent and passion and you want to find yourself in the crypto, an NFT project, Hyperledger Fabric, some type of native coin offering, some type of blockchain project, and you don't know how you see your fit, well, I'm going to tell you that you do fit. We have a candidate who's an elevator mechanic who knows so much about crypto and is so passionate about it. We're about to get him a job as a community manager, right? So, and for the first time in the history of my life, we're in a space where you can actually be repurposed based on your attitude and your knowledge base and your enthusiasm. Or not even your knowledge base, just your willingness. And so if you actually are looking for a job or want a better opportunity or project or a gig or some type of appointment, contact me, David James. I'm at the BTC Recruiter on Twitter, and you can email me at davidj@blockchainrecruiters.net. If you're somebody who needs people for your projects,
at Robo-Recruiter, Dave at blockchainrecruiters.net.
Don't forget the net, or you won't be caught in our net.
And my phone number is 760-513-6151.
So if you're looking for a gig, you call David James. If you're looking for a gig for someone who wants a gig, you call Dave Hampton.
Dave Hampton, that's right.
Right. So anyhow, so that's that. So also I want to just thank all the enthusiastic listeners. And if you want to know how you can support the channel, you can actually click the like button or you can subscribe. And remember, nobody from this channel will ever send you anything on Telegram or anything like that, asking you for money or anything like that. That's not us. Those are all, this is a philanthropy thing. This is a podcast for the betterment of society, bringing awareness to people who want to learn about crypto and NFTs and all this other kind of stuff. So it's really funny because we've been talking to a lot of people, right? We've had a lot of Zoom calls with a lot of people, and what they've said is, yeah, a year ago I never thought I would be in the NFT space. I was just doing X, or I never thought I'd be in the blockchain. I was just doing Y. I've never did we ever hear in construction. Yeah, I've been building hospitals for the last 20 years, and now I'm an auditor at a CPA firm.
Yeah, that would never happen.
It just never happened, right? And it's
for so many reasons.
People can get hired with passion over pedigree, right?
Yep.
And speaking of passion, well, let me ask you this before you go to that. Remember how when you were a kid, people would say, hey, you could be the president of the United States if you want to do it. Was that ever like a conversation, a dialogue? Did you ever one time?
Yeah, my parents they always said you could be whatever you want as long as you work.
Yeah, well, my uncle used to say, you're smart enough to be the president of the United States, David, if you just apply yourself. And I said, I don't want to be the president of the United States. I want to be the chief of staff.
Chief of staff,
right? Because that, and you've known me long enough. Yep. I like to be in the back and just come in for influence.
Yeah, you're the campaign manager. You're not the candidate. So
I am the campaign manager, right? Because I'm an introvert that way, right?
Yeah, you claim to be an introvert. Yeah,
I need my downtime.
Yeah,
right. I'm totally an introvert except when I'm not. Well, the reason I say that is recently, and more so than any time in my life, there's this new title, Chief of Staff. And it's like just thinking to myself, damn, how come they didn't have that when I was young enough to be that job? right? I mean, I wanted.
I mean, you could have invented it. You invented a lot of different things. So
Yeah. Well, the reason, and when I speak to anyone who's a chief of staff, especially the guest that we have coming on, who's so full of life and light, I'm just so envious. It's like I'm never going to be a chief of staff. But with no further ado, from NFT Genius, let's welcome the chief of staff, Karisa Winett. Welcome to A Bit About Crypto.
Hi. Can I royally knight you a chief of staff?
Yeah.
You know what? Let me tell you how stupid I am. On my 18th birthday, Prince William was born. We share the same birthday. And I said to myself, that's it. That's the sign. Because when I was 15, I always said, I'll be knighted by the Queen of England one day. Only to be learned when I was about 25, you have to be born in England to be knighted. It's like, oh, no.
And you have to be royalty.
No, you don't. You don't.
No, because I don't think
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I was like, wait,
I'm kidding. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, if you're not born in the United Kingdom, then they give you some pin, kind of like a Mary Kay, almost close to getting the Cadillac pin. That's what it feels like to me. It's not the same thing. I want to kneel. I want the sword. I want to say yes, Your Majesty. But nope. I was born not of noble birth. But I appreciate you thinking of me and my low self-esteem that you would make me an honorary knight.
You know what? Does it pay?
No, I don't even care. I hope not.
It pays in, LinkedIn notifications. Hey, are you looking for a job? Your chief of staff title matches the 7 off.
I know, right?
Yeah. So Karisa Winett, I know you're a bit shy, but just do your best to fight through that on this call. So let's just talk about you, where it all started. Like as a kid, let's talk about where you were born, where you grew up, your family life, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, what do they do?
I'm a Los Angeles native. I'm one of the few people that was born and raised in California. Okay. My parents both born and raised in California. I'm so uninteresting. I'm the most if I was a superhero, my origin story so boring.
No, yeah.
We're in LA though.
Yeah, we're gonna unpack
LA
this.
goes from East LA down to Malibu. I mean,
we're an hour if we have to.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in so Los Angeles. I went to Woodland Hills specifically. I went to Taft High School.
So in the Valley then, right?
Yes, I was definitely a Valley.
She's a
Valley girl, right?
Yeah,
so
she's from the San Fernando Valley. Okay, it's not even LA.
Yeah, it's San Fernando. Yeah. You're like an hour north of LA, essentially.
Well, it depends on
anything about us.
Okay.
Thanks about Valley girls.
Yeah.
You grew up in Reseda. That's the Valley.
Oh my
Reseda?
God!
Isn't that where the Karate Kid was from? He was in Reseda. Yeah. He moved to Reseda. He was a Jersey kid, moved to Reseda, right? That's the only. So you're the only person. You're the only person I've ever known. I thought Reseda was made up.
No, it's real.
I know.
So okay. So what's your dad do? What's your mom do?
My dad's a serial entrepreneur. When I was younger, he opened up a temporary employment agency, and he also owns a production company. So he basically does short films and movies and things of that nature.
And what about mom?
My mom helped my dad build his temporary employment agency. My mom's really I think I take after my mom in that sense in terms of organization and getting things done. My first real memory of working, which is the worst story ever, and she'll kill me for saying this, but I would come in and work in the summertime for my parents. And my mom would basically just use me as slave labor. And,
wait, hold on. Were you living in your parents' house?
Yes, I was.
Okay, all right. So let's give it some context. I mean, you had free housing.
Yeah. I know I'm 40 and I'm still living at home. My parents don't treat me with the respect I deserve.
I was 13, but she was really, really, really hard on me. So this is when typewriters were computers were not a big thing. You had them, but you were special if you had multiple. And we had a typewriter where we typed up all the invoices, and she would have me type up the invoices. And if they weren't perfectly aligned and everything was perfect, she would make me redo it. I have a fear of typewriters because of my mother. Oh. sound
I mean,
effect.
unless there's gonna be some like concrete, tangible typewriter NFT, I don't think you're gonna have an issue with that anymore.
Right? But no, she was really hard on me. She was very, she used to tell me basically, like, you're here to work, you're here to do a job. You need to do it to the best that you're able to. If this is your best, then that's fine. But you also now need to strive for more. Like, if this is your best, find out what better is and strive for that. So
that's awesome.
This sounds like my wife. This sounds like my wife.
Well, she's Puerto Rican, isn't she?
Yeah.
Your mom's Puerto Rican.
Yeah, my wife's,
there you
my
go.
wife's Mexican. She's
I mean,
spicy Latina.
little bias coming out, huh?
I'm just saying.
Or are you calling us? I mean, my mom is from Guatemala, so I get it. I get what you're talking about. So
yes, there's like a bar, and great, this is the bar.
Yeah, always do better. You can do better. You can do better. Like, what'd you get in the test? I don't know.
Keep trying some mija.
What do you think you got in the test? She's like, well, you better get an A. I mean,
well,
It's not that a B was bad. Like, I was a terrible math student, and I tried really hard. Like, it wasn't until I got older and I understood how math applied to me. Why do I need to know percentages? Oh, well, that's 20% off.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. When you start going into those sales, that's my wife. Oh, I got it on sale. 30% off. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm saving you money.
I want to go back to the grade. All you need is a C to go to the dance. You know, it was a different kind of guy. So, do you have brothers or sisters?
I have 2 siblings. I have 2 sisters.
Okay, where do you fall in?
I'm the eldest. So
Marsha.
I'm the bossy one.
Yeah.
I'm the one that basically tells everybody what to do. I'm also the one that warns them, like, I did that and I did not get away with it. So my suggestion is don't do it or do it better than what I did.
Yeah. So just so you know. So
learn from my mistakes. Don't make your own.
David and I are also the eldest in our family, right? And I want everybody to know I always got away with it. So anyhow, no, that's not true. It's not true at all.
I did it in heels.
Well,
right,
okay.
So you look good while you did it. That's what you're saying.
I can't. How do I compete with that? So
I mean, you have some heels in the closet, you know.
They're not even in the closet. They're in the front seat of my car. Yeah. No. This is I identify depending on how long the line at the bathroom is at the airport. I
agree.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
so are you into any sports? What are you loving? Do you want to be a ballerina? Okay.
My dad was a boy. He got me. I think it's split the difference because I do like a lot of, like, I grew up loving MMA and boxing. I loved basketball. Like, I used to watch basketball with my dad. We used to go to Lakers games together. I would tolerate football. We weren't allowed to talk during football. We're talking. Like, we could talk during halftime in commercials.
Yeah.
Throughout the game, and I was like,
was he a Raiders fan or a Rams fan? What's
Rams, always.
Rams, okay. All right.
Always. From LA to St. Louis, back to LA.
Well, when you speak to your dad next, thank him for bringing the Rams back, right? Because I just left a bad taste.
Somebody's got to win in California, right?
Right, correct. Correct.
It's not going to be the LA Chargers, you know?
I remember the Rams, like, going to my dad does not drink alcohol, but we went to some bar. I remember it like being like a fishy smelling bar. I don't remember, like, I think they served like fish and chips, and them losing, and like the whole Sunday being ruined because my dad did not want to do anything fun because the Rams lost. But the Rams like lost every Sunday, so I don't understand.
So that was my mom on Sundays for the Cowboys. Like, she watched the Cowboys in her own room, and you could hear her screaming. She's like, no. You know, I'm like, and if they lost, God forbid, man, you did not want to be anywhere near her because she was in a foul mood.
Yes.
It was terrible. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let any team affect me.
I knew there was a reason I liked your mom. She's a Dallas Cowboy fan.
She's not a Cowboys fan anymore.
Oh, I'm not that fond of your mom.
Well, I mean.
Anyhow, so when you're like, so what kind of things were you doing, like, for yourself? What interest did you have, like, when you were in high school? Like a junior in high school?
I was a musician, so all I ever wanted to be when I grew up was a rock star. Like, genuinely, all I ever wanted to be was a rock star.
What'd you play?
I sang, I played a little piano, and I tried to play guitar, but I really sucked at it.
Okay.
Not nearly.
And I wrote all my own songs. That kind of helped.
Okay, so you're gonna be rock star. So are you like ratting your hair and coloring it and just being the rock star vibe at high school?
Yeah, I mean, I had every color in the book at some point, and you guys missed my like. Super recently, I went like so red. This is not a joke. I looked like Jessica Rabbit or the Little Mermaid. Like, that red.
And with that curly hair, I'm sure it was fine, right? It was good.
Was just like this color red right here, like this?
No, it was red, like.
Okay.
Right.
Oh.
Hey, for those of you listening on Spotify or Apple, that's a Cheez-It box.
She's got a box of Cheez-Its on her desk
Yeah, Cheez-It. Yeah.
when she snacks.
Yeah. Like she made the look of
So,
shame.
There you go, Cheez-Its. All right, Kellogg's. You know, that's your plug from Karisa.
That's your plug.
So-
Sponsor them.
So we're having way too much fun, and we're not talking about you at all. So you get out of high school, and were you told you had to go to college, or did you tell your parents, I'm going to do something else? What happened?
I was given options. I was lucky. My dad was very lenient in that particular instance because I wanted to be a musician. So, I did attend school. I did do all that stuff. For me, it was, I wanted to be a singer. My schooling was learning how to promote myself as a musician. My schooling was learning to figure out how to sell merch. My schooling was booking myself on tours and not knowing how to get from California to North Carolina because I was opening up for Sarah Evans and the Wreckers. And I didn't realize who I was talking to, or that I was that cocky girl that really said this to the owner of a company, not knowing he was the owner of a company. And that I had no fear. So a lot of my education came from just getting myself into trouble and trying to figure out how to get out of it.
Interesting. Okay, so you're hitchhiking to North Carolina to open up for Sarah, and you get there 10 minutes before the show starts. So
I hyperventilate. I almost puke a few times. There's a lot of that.
And so so what did you do next? Because you're not doing that now. So walk me through your progression. What happened to where you got to the next thing?
So I tried my hand at most entertainment, and I realized my dad was a really smart man, and he's like, "Look, it's like a business." And I really did. He's like, "Get a job, learn the foundation of business. If you can learn the foundation of business, it doesn't change. Business is business. The music business, the entertainment business, anything you're interested, the foundation is business. If you learn business, you will be fine." And I thought, okay, well, I'll learn how to do all of these things. I'll learn marketing, I'll learn all these things, and then I'll go back and be a famous musician. And then I realized I actually enjoyed the back end. I actually enjoyed the business aspect of it more. But then I faced that struggle of, I'm a girl, which if you get treated differently as a female in certain industries.
Well, I mean, yeah, except for the massage industry, right? Then the men get treated differently. Right?
It's true.
I'm just saying. You see a lot of men like sitting on the bench, right? The gals are benched. I mean, just keeping it real. Hey, you picked the massage.
What kind of massage
you knew you were
though.
a man when you went to massage school. Okay, so you sit there and think about that. Anyhow, go on. Right? So I learned how to navigate. And I think my whole motto is learn. And I was lucky. My mentor was at a startup. It was a company called Go Moment. His name is Jay Crouch. And he taught me basically everything out of his mouth was go figure it out. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, go figure it out. I'm like, in school, they give me the answer. They tell me what books to read. They tell me what to do. I go, as a musician, they kind of give you the answer because they tell you where to go. And there's steps on how to get there if you follow them. You're not giving me any guidance whatsoever. He's like, nope, go figure it out. And that just became my motto. I was like, okay, I'll go figure it out. And I applied for many jobs that were far beyond my skill set. Like I should not have been applying to those jobs at all. But my logic was I'll figure it out when I get there. Okay. And it's never failed me. That's kind of how I got into crypto. Is I was down on my luck during the pandemic. I wasn't working. I was becoming depressed because I'd never not had a job in my entire life. Not only had I never not had a job, I always had 2 jobs. I worked a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I bartended in a nightclub. I never not worked ever. So I didn't know what to do with myself. And I felt like it was my fault. I felt like I'd made some sort of mistakes. I've always gotten A's. I've always been an honor student. I've always excelled. I've always been the number one person, especially being the older sibling. My job was to set the bar for my siblings.
Set the standard. Yep.
And to also be a role model. Like not having a job makes me look like a bad role model. Not being able to find work makes me look like a bad role. Like, what am I telling them? So it became even worse in my mind because I'm like, oh my God, I'm a bad big sister because I'm showing them that like I'm failing. They can outwardly see that I'm not good at something, which was a mental thing for me that I couldn't get past. So I was like, well, okay, my dad always taught me the one thing they can't take away from me is what I learn. So I'm just going to learn. I'm going to pay for the Udemy classes and I'm just going to start learning from Udemy. I'm just going to start watching YouTube videos. I'm just going to start watching, reading articles. And I just learned, and I started having friends that were like talking about Bitcoin and how they're making all this money. And I was like, you guys aren't that smart.
Yeah. Well, and action is the enemy of thought. I mean, that's what David's taught me, So instead of thinking about ruminating in your thoughts, you're like, listen, take some action.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm learning, and I'll hear these guys making all this money off crypto. I'm like, you guys are not that smart. Like, how are you doing this? And like, why don't I understand cryptocurrency? Like, I don't get it. And I remember having this conversation. I was on the couch. I was like on the verge of tears talking to my best friend. I'm like, I just don't get it. And she's like, what? I'm like, I can't get a job. I don't understand cryptocurrency. Like, everything sucks. And she's like, whoa, this is a lot. Take a breath. You'll figure it out. I'm like, you're right. I'll figure it out. So I'm like, okay, if these guys can learn about cryptocurrency, I should. And so I started to learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency. I watched, the University of YouTube is my favorite thing to do at this point. And I started just kind of learn as much as I could. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create a business that incorporates blockchain and cryptocurrency. So I actually got accepted into an accelerator program for a business idea that I'd had. And I was doing this at the same time as learning about cryptocurrency.
What year is this? What year is it?
All 2019.
Okay. 2019.
All like pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I understand. Okay.
So like during the pandemic, I was not working. I had all this downtime. I was just struggling. So I was like, I got into an accelerator with a business idea. I'm thinking I can turn cryptocurrency and blockchain into a business somehow. I just don't know how. And I taught myself so much, towards the end of 2019, going into 2020, I applied for a job at NFT Genius. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting this. Like, I know nothing about it. Like, I know I've taught myself a lot.
You're the second podcast guest that they applied to NFT Genius and said, there's no way I'm getting this. And then they got the interview and then didn't know anything about NFTs and said, now I'm just going to look foolish. So I didn't know anything about NFTs, but I knew about cryptocurrency and I knew about the blockchain because the blockchain is what really something about the blockchain was like mesmerizing to me. I'm like, wait, you're telling me that like, this is a ledger. And so depending upon what industries I want to go in, like I'm completely compliant because it's a complete ledger of every transaction that occurs. And it just became this, like, I can do this. Hold on a second. Stop for a second. I want to speak to my audience. Okay. So, last week we had on John, right, who is the director of strategic partnerships for NFT Genius. And now we have his boss, Karisa, the chief of staff. She's the chief. And he's on the staff. And now we have Karisa, who's saying that she circuitously came to the current job she has now, and she really wasn't a subject matter expert. She had an idea and an intention. And so everybody who's listening to this, because our podcast is catered to people who want to assimilate to crypto and blockchain some way. And I know there are people who are listening right now who are loyal followers of the show who want to repurpose themselves and see that the thing that Karisa and John have in common is they just had the courage to go forward. They had to go they both put their worst foot forward, right? Yeah, that's what you did. You put your worst foot forward, and in spite of what they thought, they actually were repurposed, not on their knowledge of crypto. And this is the only space where passion over pedigree. And I'm going to go back to this, that Southwest hires on attitude, right? And will place you in a job based on aptitude. So I want to just give that.
I would say that's applicable to recruiting though too.
Yeah, so. As in being a recruiter?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, wait, you said that you make waffles with no squares in them? You need a waffle maker who makes them with no squares? Oh my God, I'm a genius. Hey, you want to know something? Those guys in crypto aren't so smart. A lot of recruiters aren't so smart too. And if you've spoken, you come from a family of recruiters and you've spoken to us, we are very smart. I'm just sorry. It's just, I just got to say it. That's David James, 951-500. But anyhow, but there are a lot of recruiters, they get into it because they think it's just like the easy sale. Kind of like when I helped my son buy a car. couple of weeks ago, and we're up to the Honda dealership, and those guys are all out there like vultures with the cigarettes in their mouth. It's like, hey, they throw it out. Hey, can I help you with something? It's that type of personality. It's that type of personality that goes into recruiting, and they want to build something fast. It's like I said to David, we want to build a firm fast, but not a fast firm, right? But what I'm saying, coming back to where it is, if you're out there, I just keep on the soapbox because there's so many talented people that we could repurpose if you just contact us. And we don't necessarily be the ones that have to find you the job. We're going to help you find it.
Yeah, we're going to help you be a better agent for yourself in that regard. I mean, that's really the idea here the thing is you got to figure out what you want to do, why you want to do it, and then figure out how to do it. Yeah,
well, for our audience, we had this massive podcast on LinkedIn, right? How NFTs are changing the job market. We had 4,000 people sign up for it, right? And Karisa was gracious enough to be a speaker on that, and how she saw what's happening in her company, et cetera, et cetera. And I can't tell you the amount of people that send us emails and in-mails saying, hey, I've already hooked up with this person and that person. I mean, didn't you get a few people who reached out to you?
Yeah. I got a lot of, I'm very relatable.
Well, yeah, that's why you need a recruiter to filter them out.
Yeah,
everybody thinks they're a great recruiter because they know people. Knowing people is not the same thing as getting them to sign on the line.
You got to have discernment as well.
Okay, that's enough of our public service announcement. Now back to Karisa's favorite person, Karisa. So,
no, I mean, with regards to that, I did get a lot of people reach out to me about, working for NFT Genius. Jeremy took a huge risk on me. We've taken a few risks on a few people like John. Our director of marketing, Becca, has never worked in the NFT space. I think my only ask is find out what we're hiring for and explain to me how your soft skills correlate with that.
There it is. Yeah. It is.
Know what you want to do. Know why you want to do it. Right. I mean, when I got into recruiting, I called all the recruiting firms and I told them why I wanted to go work there. I had my reasons, and I said, this is why you should hire me. And I think that's to your point. That's what Chris is asking for.
Yeah, and I'm the only one that hired him, and I was just so desperate. so desperate.
And it worked so well. Look at it now.
I mean, I told him that. I mean,
yeah.
So
I guess I guess the key is stay desperate, right? Because he's working out really well. Anyhow, so I mean, a lot has changed. So a year ago, nobody was talking about NFTs the way they are. Now it's dominating everything we're hiring for. We were hiring blockchain projects, crypto projects, right? People from Anchor were calling us and saying, "Hey, you've heard about our crypto, right? Now it's NFT." So talk about what you've seen happen.
I mean, when I first started in the industry, it was just a lot of talk. I knew that CryptoPunks was a thing, Bored Apes Yacht Club was a thing, and that's all I really ever heard about. Dead Fellas, I didn't hear that much. And then there was this, I want to say, and with a crash, it was so loud, the industry it exploded.
Mm-hmm. Like Big Bang Theory. Yep.
Everything changed. And it obviously wasn't overnight, but it felt like it was. I wasn't in the very, very, very beginning in 2010 with the cryptocurrencies, or 2000 or like 7 or 8. I got into it much later, but it felt like overnight I had nobody that knew about this. And then I'm getting articles from friends. I'm getting, messages from people like, oh, I heard you're now into crypto. Can we have a conversation? And people who would never.
Welcome to my world. Yeah. Everybody I couldn't get to call me back for 15 years. Yeah. They want an audience with me. Like I'm the Dalai Lama now. Yeah. I get it.
It was weird. And then I was like, because I'm one of a few women in the industry that has the name of, chief in their title, it now has changed. I'm going to be speaking at Miami, Cryptocon. Like there's all these events that are starting to unravel.
When is that, by the way? When is that?
April 1st and 2nd in 2022.
Oh, I thought you were talking about last year. Of course, 2022.
No, you guys were the first people to give me my first speaking engagement. I'd actually never really done anything speaking wise before you guys gave me the opportunity.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, twice now.
Yeah. So I want to talk about being the chief of staff, and I want the people listening, because it's like a lot of people say, "Hey, I've been sending my resume, and nobody's responding back." It's like, yeah, because you're sending your resume, and a resume is a myth,
Yeah.
right? Because it just gets lost and there's just not enough time. You need to enroll
and
somebody.
it's
in
static. It's not dynamic.
So first off, let's talk about your job as chief of staff, right? So, when you think of chief of staff, you think of the White House and how, and really what the chief of staff does is he actually is really, he or she.
Or she,
I don't
yep.
think have we had a female chief of staff? I don't know that we have, right? But he or she decides who has the audience with the president. That's what the chief of staff does, really, and books the calendar and coming in, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that you as a chief of staff and in the cryptoverse, the NFT verse, chief of staff means something entirely different. So let's talk about what your role is. At least it might be changing by the day, but what it is currently or how it evolved to what it is.
Well, I'm in a startup. So everything's your job until it's not your job. That's how startups run, and that's how they work. Everything's your job until it's not your job. If something's not getting done, it's your job to find someone to do it yourself, or to help figure out how to get it done until someone else actually does it. So, I'm the executive assistant to our CEO. I help our CTO with some calendaring issues. I basically do all of the hiring. So I kind of act as HR to some degree. And a lot of the operational stuff goes through me, whether it be an audience with our CEO, our COO, whomever it is. All that stuff filters through me, and then it kind of gets pushed out to the appropriate channels. So if someone wants to do an event, usually I'm helping planning the event, so it starts with me, but it goes to John, or it goes to our marketing director. It really basically I am the beacon that everything filters through.
The lighthouse, right?
Okay.
Yeah, to get on shore.
You said you do all the hiring. So does that mean that even John came through you first?
John and I were hired at the same time.
Oh, okay. All right.
So what's funny thing about John is he applied for chief of staff, and they couldn't decide between John and I.
Yeah, they mentioned he mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the John in his role and you in yours was the right choice, right?
Yeah, that was it was so strange because John's we're kind of like brother and sister at this point because we were brought on at the same time. We went through like the growing pains together of neither one of us really knowing.
No, it's like two people coming from two different adoption agencies. It's like,
yes.
I guess you're my brother, right? Yeah,
exactly what it is.
Yeah. So, but let's talk about that. So you've worked for what was your start date?
Oh,
I
remember.
I think
June?
I actually have it.
June of this year.
Yeah, June. So June. Okay, so by the time this airs, so you're about 8 months into it. Right, by the time this airs. So, talk about how many hires have you made? Or partook? Where you were the gatekeeper?
I was. So here, what happens is I'm kind of the gatekeeper, and I'm kind of like the first interviewer.
Right. That's why I was saying. How many of those have you had?
I've had a lot of interviews. I've had hundreds at this point. That's not an exaggeration, especially when looking for dev.
You're not talking. We understand. We do hundreds like a day, not a day, but all of us probably hundreds.
I've hired probably about 5 people. Our marketing director, I hired. Our VP of product, I hired, and then I was involved in hiring some dev.
Okay. What in the people that you ultimately hired, the ones that you wanted to extend offers to. Right. And there are those you extended offers to and those you extended offers to that accepted. Right. But anybody who actually extended offers to, they had that it factor. So from Karisa's point of view, right, and being very biased, having worked with your dad because you've got the recruiter mentorship, what were the things that these people all had in common by coming to a startup? What were, if you were to like put it together? In
the interview.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people interview well, and what they say and what they do, and when they get the job, are obviously very different.
Yeah, I'm real clear on that.
Yep.
I'm real clear on that.
That's why we get the interview.
That's why we exist as a species, us recruiters, right?
Because you help that. You definitely help in that particular arena. But for me, it was the understanding that everything's your job until it's not your job as a startup, and that's a big thing for me. Like, hey, I do things that I don't want to do some days. Like, I don't want to. Answer 450 emails every day. But I have to. There's, until I get an assistant that can go through my emails for me. These are tasks that I have to do. There's, things that are not fun that you have to do. Reviewing invoices aren't fun. There's things that in your job, whether you're a social media marketing person, whether you're the chief product officer, whether, whatever your job is, there are going to be things that you're used to having an assistant to do or somebody beneath you doing that now, unfortunately, because we are in a startup, you're doing a lot of your own legwork. And you have to be not only willing and wanting to do that, because it'll help the company grow and get you that assistant or that thing that you need, but you have to be willing to say, hey, anybody else who needs help, I got you.
That's interesting. So let's talk about some of the candidates that you saw and spoke to. And you said to yourself, wow, this person is great. This is going so well. This person's going to be perfect. And then they said or did something. Let's talk about those said or things that where you just go, oh man, you went from suited to booted. You just don't know it yet. Talk to me about those interview mistakes that people have made.
There's always people that tell me exactly what I want to hear, and I'm not picking up. There's signs of them telling you. They parrot what you say in the same way that you're saying it. So you feel like they get you. And I've had that happen quite a few times where I'm like, oh, this person gets it. They're saying that they're a go-getter, and they're saying that they're gonna, they're gonna be that person to
do whatever it takes. Yeah, wear different hats, all that stuff kind of thing.
But I'm telling them that, and they're regurgitating it back to me
in an inauthentic way.
Yes. And I'm like, wait a second. Like the longer you start to talk to them, you're like, wait a second. So then you start to drill down the questions of like, well, tell me what your duties were at your current position and how they correlate to what I'm asking of you in this position.
Right.
And they can't give you examples of, how they've done these things or when they've done these things. But my favorite is when you've had that compensation conversation where it's like, I'm very transparent. I'm very clear in the very beginning. Like, this is how we operate. This is how we work. This is what we have available. And I get that whole, well, that's not really what I'm getting paid now. I'm like, understood. We are a startup, and there's that spiel of we are a startup. This is what we have to offer. That doesn't mean that won't change or there's bonuses, but this is the structure now. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'm like, okay, no worries. I don't want to waste any more of your time, but this is our salary. Well, I'd still like to move on to the next round and talk to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, the expectation was set and you're not listening, which means you're going to do this when you work it.
Right. And they won't be there. Yeah. So there's a difference between my hearing is fine. I can hear great. It's my listening that's needs work. I mean, just as a metaphor, as the human species, right? There's hearing and there's listening, right?
And there's always those things that where as you're talking to them, I always ask questions like, give me an example. I hate this. I hate the question. I always preface people, I hate this question. Tell me why you want to work here. Yeah. I hate that question because the truth is you need a job. And I had a posting. And the salary criteria that I posted fit within the salary criteria that you're looking for. So why do I want to work here? Because I need a job.
Yeah. So for those of you who are listening, the correct answer is like, look, this is like a series of dates, right? I was told that I could meet someone who is looking for in me what I'm possibly looking for in them. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they sound like. And so I'm just taking the next indicated step. So the correct answer is I don't know that I want to work here yet. So far, I'm talking to you, and this is going out really well. If you speak with that authenticity, that gets you farther than some other, I want to use a profanity that starts with a B, then with an S, right? But, it's a G-rated show.
Yeah. So, I mean, and adding on to that, I mean, it's like, I think it's a combination of knowing why NFT Genius or X company is a company you would want to work for based on what you know, right? Based on the ideation of what NFT Genius or a company XYZ purports to be, right? And what the job is. And then the combination of like, well, I don't know if you guys are a fit for me at the same time, right? That's, we're still getting to know each other, but to your point, knowing why they're there, aside from the money. I mean, yeah, everyone needs to make money to make a living, but aside from that, the real question behind that is like, where are you trying to drive your meaning from? What's
that's right.
What do you want to do and why? That's the essential question here.
So we are actually going to just speak to the audience for a second. Every time when somebody says to me, my entire life, they said, hey, I've either quit a job or I took a package or I was laid off or I was fired. The question is always, well, how much severance did you get, right? Sometimes they'll say as much as 0 to I got 5 years of severance, right? I mean, more 0 than 5 years, right? But what I'm saying is with so what are you doing now? So I'm looking for a job. And you will find that if somebody got 4 years of severance, the job search starts at 3. If you got 10 weeks, then they start at like 8.5 until the pain gets so desperate. And when you talk to somebody about actually what they're doing I'm looking for a job full time. What that means is they go on to LinkedIn for about 45 minutes and maybe they'll send out a resume or two. Okay. You don't work at a job for an hour and a half, right? It needs to be your full-time job. And to David's point, and to what Karisa is saying, right? You need to at least know the company that if you want to separate yourself, we'll use NFT Genius. NFT Genius, I see that you're doing this. I see you're hiring these kinds of positions. That's why if you are not sending some type of cover letter, I'm not saying send a cover letter, but some type of additional articulation about who you are and why you are actually better purpose than all the other candidates who are applying, then basically it's just like you're at the luck of the draw. And I bet you, Karisa, those people that have done something different, reached out to you in a different way, got your attention. It's like, okay, this person is someone who thinks outside the box, and we need that.
I mean, a lot of the interviews that I've booked came from LinkedIn. They sent me the resume, and this is not an exaggeration, I get anywhere between 400 to 700 emails a day.
No, emails or LinkedIn?
Emails.
Emails.
Okay.
Wow.
Emails. So when I get LinkedIn messages, I'm not John. I'm not cool like John. I don't get hundreds of LinkedIn messages yet. I get, maybe 10 to 15 LinkedIn messages. So I actively check those and I actually follow up with those and I actively respond to those because there's if they took the time to email me, and the thing is, I'll remember like seeing someone's name in a series of, I'm like, that name sounds familiar. And so I'll go from LinkedIn back to my email to see if they emailed me. I'm like, okay, they doubled it up. They LinkedIn me and they emailed me. Yep. That persistence, I'm going to give at least the opportunity to have a conversation. I'll usually send a Calendly link because I calendar for other people, so I don't want to calendar for myself. And so they book that call, and I always, unless I have a meeting that overlaps that, I'll always take the call, and I'll just talk to them. And a lot of it is not even why should I hire you? Do you fit our company culture? Right. Because 100% of the time, everything can be taught.
Exactly. Yep.
Everything I've taken, and I've not just at NFT Genius, but other companies where I've acted as like the point of contact to get people hired, and they go through me for the first hiring round. I can teach them. I've told bosses, I can teach them. It's fine as long as right. You like them as a person.
They have the right attitude. Yeah.
I'll teach them.
Yeah. It's an axiom. It's such a truism. Like I think it just comes from the foundation of like hard work, getting after it, wanting it, and like, as you say, figure it out. I mean, David to his point, to your point about that, he said to me one time, he said, what makes a really good recruiter? The best recruiters figure it out. They figure it out. I'm paraphrasing there. But
yeah, because I had an F word in the middle there.
Yeah. Well, it was a point of emphasis.
The F.
Yeah. So, but go ahead.
No, but figuring it out for me is also just making sure that I understand what you want. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's part of communicate. You got. I mean, it's a two-way highway. You got to
serve each other's needs.
Communicate. Let me know what you want. How can I help you? I mean, I read this this book a long time ago called QBQ. And it was talking about asking the right questions, right? And it really set the mindset of like the service for others. How can I help you? Like, instead of being like, oh, why didn't you do it this way? It's like, okay, how can I help you get to where you need to get to, versus like trying to place blame. It's just I mean, this is 12 years ago when I read that book, and it set such a mind frame in terms of business, because that's really, I mean, to your dad's credit, it's business, right? I mean, business is about serving others. My pet peeve is pristine customer service. And the reason I say that is because, like, whatever job you have, just be good at it. Be proud about being good at your job. I mean, your mom said it too, right? Just be good at it. Like, if you're not, then it's, because that energy, it seeps through and it affects people, and so you're, without even realizing, you're affecting people in a negative, bad way, like, which is the antithesis of you, Karisa. You're this energetic, like, just ball of fieriness,
And like, I'm the first person to say, like, applying for a job is hard. Like you have to spend, I know that I've spent.
And it's rejecting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rejection, like being an actress or being a singer.
Looking for a job is the worst job in the world.
Well, the thing about it is what makes more actors quit, singers quit, right? They're done with the rejection. They're done.
And so I am mindful that you guys spent hours, applying to jobs, hopefully, because if you're looking for a job, you need to spend 6 to 8 hours a day looking for a job. It doesn't, unfortunately, you have to apply to hundreds of positions to get 3 people to interview you. The math sucks.
Yeah, but it's such a, that's why to get, I called David. That's what, he had this whole, his hiring process was, hey, send me an email why I should hire you.
Yeah,
write it up.
You got to write. You can't just send me a resume. You got to write 3 things on why I should hire you. Because that way, because everybody just click the button, click the button,
right.
click the button.
So I intuitively knew, this is the first test. He's making sure people are following instructions, right? So I'm like, all right. And then the second thing I did, I was like, I'm going to call this guy because I really want the job.
Yeah, that disappointed me a great deal, by the way, to this day.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys actually read resumes? I'm gonna be honest, I don't read.
Nobody reads resumes. Nobody reads resumes. They pick at them. And since you asked that, let me explain this to the audience. What happens when I get the old days of getting a resume, because I'm old enough to actually have opened the mail, right? And then they came through the fax
machine,
right? And then the emails, but
right.
But for the thing about it is, when I actually take the electronic version of their curriculum vitae, when I take it, I go to the bottom. I want to see where they went to school,
where they started,
where they're volunteering, what they're passionate about. I want to see that thing first, right? Because I want to know what you were thinking when you went to school. And then I want to come from the back up. Were you a waiter? Were you a waitress? What did you become all the way up? And then what I'm really looking for is how many times did you promote at the jobs you have, right? When you see somebody who's actually been at 5 different jobs and they actually had 2 or 3 different positions within those jobs, you know that that's someone who actually takes on enough responsibility or goes on. And then I look at the amount of years they were in each position, and I look for gaps. Right? It's okay. You notice that this person's got a 9-month gap in between each one of his jobs. Fired, couldn't get hired. Fired, couldn't get hired. Fired, couldn't get hired. So if you pass that test of the way I'm actually looking at it, then I start reading it. Then I start saying, okay, what? I don't even know your name yet. I saw it, but I don't care. At this point, I don't care about your name, okay? But now, if there's an interest in the way you've presented yourself, where you've pedigreed yourself, not on your degree, but on what you've done, now I start caring, right? And when people say, God, how do you do it as a recruiter? It's because I'm able to eliminate so quickly. So you might not think that's reading a resume, but so far, I've screened enough people out. Right, so what we're doing for you, if we ever work together, we're screening people in. Right? And really what you're paying for, people think you're paying for the candidates we hire. Wrong. You're paying for the turd farmers, right? And the perpetual appliers, right? That we go through, or the frauds and the fakesters, right? That you never meet. We sniff them out for you. It's like, God, all you do is give us great candidates. I say, yeah, but you're not seeing how the sausage is made. But anyhow, I felt compelled to narrate on that question.
No, I appreciate that because I don't read people's resumes. I glance to make sure they have experience in what I'm asking for. I'm not even lying.
And then you ask them the story, right? You what do you like? Ask them the story and just talk about what they did and why they did it, and like you're really trying to understand it from that perspective. I mean, I'm guessing
it's a culture fit. Like everything else can be taught, unless you're coming for like a chief product officer or a chief marketing officer or a chief operations officer. Everything else is a teachable skill. And if we have good teachers and good leaders and good managers on our team, they'll see the same thing that I see. Oh, well, they don't have the experience. Right. My God, I can teach them, and they'll be great at it. And I want that. So for me, it's not just you have 10 years experience doing this, because you can have 10 years experience doing this and still suck. Indeed.
Amen.
But you have 3 years as a waitress, and as a waitress, you did all these social media posts that brought you a clientele of your own that allowed you to make, $1,000 a week. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so about that. So I want to talk about Camelia Campton, right? Camelia Campton. She's I saw her speaking in Spanish on a podcast with about 6 people on how Bitcoin was franchising people who are disenfranchised in Colombia, right? Because the currency is being debased. And I said, and some of them they were arguing in Spanish, but it was mostly in English, right? And I said, I want this gal on my podcast, right? And we got her on, and her story is that she came here illegally, as many do, right? But her and her mom got papered, right? And she got a degree, right? And like all people, whether you're papered or not, she graduated at a time where the degree and the student debt is worth a lot less than having not done it. Right, so she goes to Denver and she's like doing these TikTok videos, right? And her boyfriend is talking to her about Bitcoin, and so she's doing these TikTok videos about Bitcoin. And Swan Bitcoin is saying things back and forth, and she's going, your videos suck, right? And why do they suck? Well, I'd make a video like this, and lo and behold, she now works for Swan Bitcoin as the social media person, right? Because and what I'm telling you, Karisa, and what I'm telling the audience is, I wouldn't lead with "Hey, you suck," and here's why. I would soften that, right? But she actually had a passion for something, and she was doing. And she pointed something out, so she brought creation and ownership and enrolled in an idea.
Well, she also saw a problem, and she actually had a solution for it, which is, I think that's, to your point about the waiting, I think what the resume lacks for me a lot, which is why we talk to people, why we the way David does it. I look at the resume and I try to tell the story in my head in terms of why they went from here. I can see it that way. I can see in 3D that way. And then really what I'm interested in is like, what did you actually do? What did you actually accomplish? What led you to those things and why? Because then you can figure out motivations behind why people are doing what they're doing. And to me, I keep coming back to it, but to me, it's why, and so that's why I majored in psychology. I just wanted to understand the brain, the mind, and like why people do things, motivations. So
I'm gonna be honest. Jeremy will probably back me up on this, but he thinks that I'm a great hire, and all he had to go off was my personality. To be honest with you. My resume, which
right.
I had executive assistant.
No, we know.
But hiring is 15% technical and 85% character and gut. It's just you just know when somebody's going to be. And look, you've got a recruiter's background. You've had your parents say this candidate's perfect, but right. So you've known how to appropriate yourself as the perfect candidate, even if it's something that's quote not done yet, right? And as David and I have that too. Karisa, we're coming to the end of our show. What do you want to tell our audience about your uniqueness of being? And if someone wants to get a hold of you and work for NFT Genius, how do they find you? Let's make that 1,000 emails a day.
You can just email me at Karisa@nftgenius.com. I answer all of my emails.
Well, I'm waiting for you to answer some of mine. So
no, you're not. Get out of here. No, you're not. Don't try to throw shade. Come on. You said this was not a gotcha show. Okay?
Gotcha. And by the way, that's Karisa, and it's spelled Karisa for those of you who are listening on Apple and Spotify. Okay, so Karisa at nftgenius.com.
And I just want people to remember that they can achieve your parents may have told you the cheesy line of you can be anything you want to be. You can. Just make sure whatever it is you want to be correlates with who you are and who you're going to be.
That's awesome. Karisa Brown.
Amen.
Thank
Karisa Winett.
I know. I'm looking at somebody else, Jeff Brown. Sorry about that. Karisa, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I want to give a shout out to Travis, our engineer.
I heard you all the way from here. Really big shout out. Thank you.
And I can't do it without my partner, Dave Hampton, the Robo Recruiter.
Eternally grateful.
This is a good episode. I'm looking forward to it to air. And everybody, I'm David James, the Job Whisperer. And remember, get whispered.